Welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast, the show by fans for fans of your Milwaukee Brewers. Welcome back, Brewer fans, to another edition of the Brew Crew Review Podcast, where this is Vince Travato, joined on the set today by the one and only Mr. Scott Bartell. How are you today, Scott?
I'm doing great. It's great to talk to all you guys. Everybody's here, right?
Well, Craig is unfortunately not with us right now. Craig is, he said he was at a Taco Bell in West Dallas or some such thing. I don't know what exactly he's doing. He is going to try to join us later, so hopefully he does arrive at the studio shortly. And then you talked to our illustrious co-host, Mr. Chad Collins. Right, Scott? Where's he tonight? Is he here?
It was kind of cryptic. All he told me was that he was making America great again. He did not say how, but I assume that he is.
I know that he's in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is also where you lived. Are you sure he's not in the studio with you somewhere?
He is not in the studio with me, but if he hasn't called me yet, that's usually a good sign. I would assume, not that I wouldn't want to hear from him. Of course, that would be great. Chad's awesome. But, usually people only call you in Vegas when, something has gone horribly, horribly wrong, like Hangover 1 kind of wrong. So.
Maybe he needs a ride, but he doesn't want to call you because he knows that you don't like driving. But that's all right.
It is weird out here because, everybody comes out here on vacation, and then they kind of expect you to be in vacation mode, but you're still, in work mode. And so, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to gamble a ton of money. I'm like, no, that's not in my budget. And I don't have a vacation budget. I'm not on vacation.
Our longtime listeners will know that you're in Las Vegas. I'm in Washington, D.C. I come in last week to Washington. It was kind of the same thing. It's fun how that works. In any event, we are here tonight to talk about some Brewers baseball. So, Scott, let's start off by talking about Keston Hiura. Keston he got off to a little bit of a slow start this year in Double-A after his promotion to Biloxi, but he has come on incredibly strong and put up some great numbers over the past 2 months essentially. And this week he was rewarded with a nod to join the United States team at the All-Star Futures game being held in Washington, D.C. next week. It's a real honor. He's the only guy from the Brewers organization to be asked to participate in the game for either the United States or the World team. And I'm very excited to see him play out here, actually. So I'm planning on going to the game. Scott, what are your thoughts on Keston Hiura being named to the U.S. squad here at the Futures game?
Well, I think it's unbelievable. It's first of all, it's so great. Anytime that you get to, as a Brewer fan, I know that we've had plenty of years where we're like, well, just wait until this guy comes up. He'll save everything. It'll be great. But we don't all have a savior. It turns out this year we do. His name's Jesus, ironically. But it doesn't usually happen like that. And so when you have an opportunity to see somebody like that playing in a game against the best of the best, like we're going to get to see in Keston Hiura, that's a great reason to be excited. You can see not only are we good now, but we have a future too. And how often have you actually been able to say, hey, this Major League Baseball Milwaukee Brewers team is really, really good, and their minor league system is stacked also? It's usually
right, and
one or the other.
You're right. And David Stearns has made a point to do a couple things, with the draft. And he's taken usually the best available player available, regardless of position, and Keston Hiura fit that mold. In Hiura, he took a middle infielder and he played second base, and then finally he took a guy in Hiura's case who, was a college baseball player whose bat is a little more advanced than if you take, a guy who was playing in high school. Most scouts would rate, college as being somewhat like rookie ball or maybe even hay ball, depending on which program you're in. And Hiura has shown that to be somewhat true. He's risen, through the system pretty quickly. People forget sometimes that he was our number one draft pick only in 2017, so just 1 year ago. He's not been in the organization for that long, and he's already in Double-A. And there is some speculation among some fans that Hiura's bat is already big league ready, and that perhaps David Stearns and Craig Counsell are looking at Hiura as a guy that we could be calling up as soon as this September when rosters expand. Do you see Hero playing any sort of role on this 2018 Brewers team, Scott?
Well, I think when rosters expand, I think you actually have to bring him up. And I'm not saying that because I think he's major league ready or anything like that, but I think his bat is very close to major league ready already. So that is part of it. So if you could see him, maybe showing up and being like a little bit of a, pinch hitter or something like that, I could see that happening for sure. So I think he has although limited, I do still think he has some value at the major league level this year even. But I think even more importantly is this is a phenomenal opportunity to bring up those players and reward them for a job well done and get them on the big league team in the middle of a pennant race. And when you think about it, like, okay, we've obviously never really done anything as far as like baseball or anything like that, like minor league baseball or anything, but that's every kid's dream growing up, is to be a part of a pennant race. Could you imagine? And these guys, they've been playing baseball their whole lives, and this is going to be their first time being in a legitimate MLB pennant race. Like, I can't think of anything more that would get you more fired up. Like, I would just be playing my ass off and be like, wow, this is going to be phenomenal. So just to have that experience, I think is going to promote a lot of loyalty within the club. And, maybe that's somebody that's going to be, willing to reward them back, maybe sign off, an extra, a year of free agency by signing a contract early because they're like, hey, this is the team for me. This is the organization I want to be a part of. But yeah, it's just going to be a great opportunity.
Yeah, there's a couple trains of thought with that. And number one is what you said. Number two would be, does a guy coming up and sitting on the bench and maybe struggling, in his first 20 or 30 major league at-bats, does that get his head a little bit? And I tend to agree with you, Scott. I don't think that it does. I think that, you've got a guy in Keston Hiura who should be very confident in his ability to say 30 odd at-bats at the end of the year. I don't think anybody would really care or look down on that because he wouldn't be being put into high leverage situations most likely. And he would also gain the experience, and he also gain the ability to be tutored directly by veterans on the club, guys who have been, in the big leagues for years who can teach him a bit. You also have seen the Brewers do this in years past, granted under a different manager and general manager, but, in 2008, and I don't want to compare here to some of these names because many of these guys did not work out, but, I remember us bringing up Angel Salome in 2008. I remember us bringing up Brad Nelson in 2008. Other highly regarded prospects at the time that were brought up to kind of give them that glimpse of what a pennant race could look like, for a big league team. And actually, in Nelson's case, I believe that he was on that 2008 postseason roster against Philadelphia in the first round. So, you never know what could happen too at the big league level if you say you had an injury to Jonathan Villar. Does Hiura become, if not a starting second baseman in the big leagues, does he become a very viable backup to a more veteran guy at second? Does he, become a valuable pinch hitter later in games? You just don't know what's going to happen. But I do agree with your overall larger point that there is a pretty decent amount of value to be found in bringing up a guy in a postseason situation, especially after rosters expand on September 1st. For those fans who don't know, the rosters expand from 25 guys to 40, and the team is allowed to bring out 40 guys. So you can add an additional 15 guys to be on your bench or be in your bullpen, be in your clubhouse. And generally teams do take advantage of that to either fill a need at the big league level. Like, one example would be Quentin Berry last year was brought up to essentially serve as a pinch runner. He's got a lot of speed, and we put him to use in a handful of games at the end of last season as we were trying to make the postseason, or as a reward, like you said earlier, Scott, for putting up minor league numbers that are, exceptional. And in Hiura's case, that would certainly fit.
Yeah, not only that, but when you think about it, some of these guys are going to be able to, even meet their, their idols or the people that they watched growing up, and they're going to be playing on the same team with them. I mean, that's crazy. For example, like our second rounder, Joe Gray, there was a big article last week about him being able to play catch with his his idol, Christian Yelich. I mean,
Right.
what a great
Right.
opportunity for him, you know? I mean, you get drafted in this organization by your favorite, like now you get to play catch with your favorite player. Like, wow, what a cool moment. And so you never know how
true.
like the mentoring process is going to be with some of these guys. I think it's going to be great. Just a great opportunity for everybody.
And Scott, that brings us to a great segue. That brings us to, hey, Craig, is that Craig or Chad?
Long time listener, first time caller.
Hey, Craig, how are you? Thanks for joining us tonight. Glad you could get out of the Taco Bell. We had told our listeners that you were at Taco Bell in West Dallas and just didn't have good phone reception. So glad to have you here.
Yeah, I don't have much of a voice left, but hopefully I can get through.
I'm sure you
guys have already discussed for All Stars, right?
Yeah, well, I'm sure you heard our first podcast that aired on Sunday. This is the second podcast. Yeah. That is already been discussed, but I'm sure our fans would love to hear your take on that if you wanted to add anything. Going forward, what we were just doing is segueing. We're talking about the Brewers minor leaguer Keston Hero being named to the United States team for the Futures game here coming up at the All-Star game in Washington, D.C. And we were segueing to the Brewers signing number 1 draft pick Brian Turang this past week, finally locking him down. Actually, it happened with only about 20 hours to go to the deadline before we would have lost the rights to him. So it was good to get him locked up and signed. I think we were over $300,000 over slot value for Turang. Do you guys have any thoughts on that signing and any thoughts on his projections here as he now becomes officially a part of the Milwaukee Brewers organization?
I thought that the Brewers reached for their 3rd round pick to save a little bit of money so they could sign Turang, thinking he would want to overslot with the threat of going to college, especially having kind of a down year, and he probably could improve his draft stock, but that's a little risky for anyone, and we got that many millions of dollars offered to you. I was pretty confident when the Brewers selected him that they would eventually sign him, and that was the case. So I wasn't really sweating that one out at all, even though, like Vince mentioned, it did come down to the 25th hour, so to speak. Glad to have him in the organization. I think he'll be a quality future major leaguer, hopefully, and we shall see. But it is interesting just to kind of throw out there that I believe 3 other first-round picks failed to sign. The teams will get the Braves first-rounder, which is 8th overall. The pitcher out of high school, Carter Stewart, he failed to sign, and also both toward the back of the first round, both the Diamondbacks and Dodgers first round picks also did not sign. It's been a while. In fact, I can't remember a draft where 3 first rounds did not sign. I was wondering what your guys' thoughts are on that, just because of the fact that I think that this year's draft is a little bit weak overall, especially toward the top of the draft. I don't know if it's just shocking to me that these 3 high schoolers would pass on the millions of dollars of slot that they were offered with the risk of going to college. We've seen that in the past not necessarily work out for guys. That's a huge risk to take. Sometimes it pays off, but sometimes it doesn't. Or could it have been more shadiness by these teams, knowing that maybe next year's draft will be better and they get a comp pick basically in the same number as this year, basically. What are your guys' thoughts on why that happened? Luckily not for the Brewers.
That's a really great point. For one, I'll just say I don't think that many of these guys are necessarily thinking in those terms, like next year's draft class or anything of that nature. And so that's one factor. But yeah, you're right. First rounder, if you're, I guess I would understand it if you're a 5th rounder and you've got a ton of confidence in yourself that you can up your value in after another couple of seasons or after going to college and get taken in the first round. I guess that's one thing. But to be a first round pick, no matter if it's a 1 or 30, like to me, you're not going to go up any higher than that, really, unless you're like literally the number, 1 or 2 pick in the draft. And I just don't understand how you could leave all that money on the table. And today you can most definitely, and it happens all the time, where if you were really set on getting a college education, even like you can work that into your contract. Like the team will pay for you to go to college at some point in life. You don't have to do it this year when you're 18 or 19 years old. So I don't understand it either. Yeah, it's a really, really weird thing. It's the only other thing I can think of is if, somebody's a two-sport athlete, which I think was the case with one of those guys, that maybe they wanted to stick to football or do something else besides baseball or didn't want to make baseball their professional career. But if you want to go into baseball and make that your career, I can't think of any reason why you should ever turn down a number one draft slot.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about risk or reward, and you're talking about, what people are doing and thinking about maybe they shouldn't enter the draft. Look no further than Bryce Turang, Milwaukee Brewers, because if he would have entered last year, people were, speculating that he was going to be a top 3 pick, and that would have put him, earning right around, $7-8 million. But instead, he gets what? 3.5 from the Brewers. I forget what the exact number is, but almost half as much because he decided to go back to school year and he didn't have the year that he expected.
Right. And that's a great point, Scott. And, all these guys run the risk, like in any sport, of suffering an injury. If any of these guys that turn down the selection that they had in the first round gets injured, no matter how that injury plays out, you're not going to have quite as high a value attached to your name going forward. So you run the risk of injury. You run the risk of having one bad season out of 4 in college, and your draft stock goes down. There's so many other intangibles. Like Craig said, it could be that there's just other better players in that draft class. I mean, there are a lot of factors here. So yeah, to turn down a guaranteed first round draft type of money that you're going to get, it's just crazy to me if you want to make this your career.
Yeah,
I will point out that in the Braves picks choice and Carter Stewart, what I've heard is that they weren't happy with his medicals, even though it was something related to his wrist. And so they only offered him the minimum to get a comp pick, which was 40% of the slot value, I believe. It's been being reported. So that's a little interesting to me. I mean, it's unfortunate for the kid. I'm sure he wanted to sign, but there's no way his agent or insurance or whatever let him sign at 40% of what the slot value was drafted at. So he was and so my understanding is instead of, he does have the option now to enroll in a junior college. He'll be eligible for next year's draft, which I guess is planned. So hopefully things work out for him. But yeah, that's really unfortunate for a kid like that to have something come up in your medicals and cost you literally millions of dollars.
Well, on the flip side, I agree, Craig, and maybe he does turn it around and has a great year at JUCO. But like, if you're looking at the flip side of that, maybe that wrist injury is somewhat serious, and now you've turned down still millions of dollars, and compare that, with what most other 18-year-olds are making at, working at a fast food restaurant, and you're definitely in worse off shape by not accepting the deal. It is surprising to me.
Yeah, I guess on the other side of the coin, kind of to piggyback off of what you just said, when you really look at it, this kind of says that the Brewers really have faith in Bryce Turang because we're willing to pay him, $300K over slot, which is a pretty significant amount, when we could have just walked and said, no, we're not going to do that, play a little bit of hardball, and then take our chances next year. And presumably, if it is a deeper draft, be able to get an even better player next year at around the same spot. We decided not to do that because I guess we felt that Turang's stock had slipped enough that we got great value by getting him at the 21st pick, and we weren't willing to risk that in trying to sign somebody next year. So we really believe in this guy, and let's hope it pays off.
Yep, and we should point out that as a high school player, he's going to have a number of years in the minor leagues before he emerges as a potential call-up for the Brewers. If and when that should happen, it'll be after years of coaching in the minor leagues. So, the Brewers seem to be more confident now in their organization as a whole. I think that, you look at guys who do come from high school and you've got the opportunity to influence them in ways that maybe you couldn't do with a college guy, so maybe that could be something with it as well. High school stats are pretty random, it seems to me, at least, if you're talking about a few points here and there on a batting average. But, we'll hope for big things out of Turang, and if all goes well, we should see him in Milwaukee in a number of years, say 3 or 4 years down the road. But we'll certainly, here at the Brew Crew Review, be following him as he goes through the system and hope for big things.
And there's always that risk, since the Brewers seem like they hopefully will be perennial contenders here, that if nothing else, if he never wears a Brewer uniform, he could become a very valuable trade chip.
Right.
And so you just never know. So regardless, hopefully we'll make it to the Brewers, but you just never know. And definitely good to point out that he's a high school, unlike Chris Castanero last year out of college, a polished hitter out of college, is basically possibly talking about sniffing the majors even this year. That's just not going to be the case at this time next year when we're talking about Turang. I mean, we're not calling up and there's not Robbing Out era where we can call up a 19-year-old shortstop.
Right.
Those days are kind of over. Unless he's a real phenom, which, yeah. So, but anyway, I'm sure you guys got lots of cool segments planned. I hope I didn't miss like the TC reference or the chat update or all that good stuff. Or definitely not stepping up to the plate. But I have no idea. It's kind of exciting. I'm sure Scott has a great agenda plan.
We had a great, you know what? I'm sure you heard it, but we had a great podcast for earlier this week and covered a lot of the Brewers roster moves, the recent homestand.
Yeah, I think I was your only listener actually, so it was great job, guys.
You know, last week when we took the week off for the 4th of July, I actually did get contacted and asked where our podcast was. So there is that. That's a story. But
that's good.
No, you mentioned our anonymous source, Tom Carter, Craig. That's a good segue. Our anonymous source, Tom Carter, projects that the National League is going to win the All-Star game, but not only that Josh Hader will actually make an appearance and have a shutdown inning. Do you guys have any thoughts on Brewers and their performances in the All-Star game coming up?
Well, Tom didn't. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. That's not a lot of inside information. I actually think the AL is going to win, but I think Tom Carter was saying that he didn't want us to say the full name Tom Carter anymore, but either way, it's fine. We could just move past it.
Okay. Yeah, and I know he talks to our colleague Tom Undercourt as well. So yeah, that's good though. We'll try to be better.
He's worried about maintaining his anonymity, but you know.
Well, it's because he works in the Brewers ticket office, but yeah. In any event, that's fine.
By the way, the Brewers ticket office, thanks to a helpful tweet from our podcast, we helped somebody find their lost glove that was at the ball game on this last Sunday. They're very, very happy, and they wound up following us. We got our 100th follower back, so it's been a big day for everybody.
That's exciting. That's very exciting. Great job, Scott. You're a social media manager here. All right. On that note, I've got some stepping up to the plate questions that I would like to run past you guys. Are you both prepared for
this
week's edition of Stepping Up to the Plate? Craig, are you ready for this? You're just stepping in.
Yeah, why not? As long as Scott goes first. So.
When I said yes, I was just excited about the stepping up to the plate, and then we had the questions. I wasn't saying that I was prepared, so just to clarify.
Okay. Well, Scott, you are going first. And, again, this is rapid fire, so take as much time as you possibly need.
All right, let's get ready.
All right. Yep. And, Craig, you can play that little intro music. Okay, there it is. All right. Inning number 1. Which Brewers' top 10 prospects will no longer be in the organization by the end of this season? Scott Bartell.
Which Brewers prospects?
From the top 10 list.
From our top 10. There's going to be several if we make a big trade. But, all right, okay. I'm going to say Corey Ray. I think, Corey Ray was a Stearns pick, though, right?
Yeah.
No, he's not going to give up on him yet. Corey Ray has struggled the entire time he's been a Brewer.
He's actually having a pretty decent year this year, though.
Right, so he finally got a little bit of trade value back. But I'm going to say since he's a Stearns guy, Stearns is going to stick with him. I don't know. I'm going to say Brett Phillips and Luis Ortiz. How's that?
Oh, wow. Those are my exact 2 picks. Wow. All right. That's great. Well, we're going to skip me. I'm going to say both those guys are gone.
So basically, you're just hoping it's guys no one else actually wants.
Yeah, it's sort of.
All right. Well,
I think Phillips has some value to other teams still, actually. I would not say that he's an unwanted commodity at this point. I think he's.
And I guess if they need like a class clown type guy, sure.
Great defensive outfielder, and I think a lot of teams are viewing him as a guy who has got limited opportunities in Milwaukee simply because the outfield is stacked here. So I think he still has some value.
Class clown is sort of my role on this podcast, so hope we're not.
I am going to go with Keston. I'm going to go with Keston here.
No,
wow.
don't do it.
Wow. All right. Nobody's taking Corbin Burns. That's interesting. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Inning number 2. Which David Stern's 2018 acquisition has been most valuable this season? Scott.
Aguirre. It's got to be, right? Is that a trick
Who?
question?
No, what'd you say?
Jesus.
Oh, he wasn't a 2018 acquisition, Scott. He played for the team last year.
Oh, shit. Hang on. Sorry, Craig, edit that. Sorry. 2018.
I do not have the time or inclination to edit anything, so watch
the,
your potty mouth.
The intern will take care of it. It's fine. Go ahead, Scott.
2018 acquisition. Julius Chastain.
Nice. Craig?
Lorenzo Kane.
Yeah, that's a pretty clutch one. I'll just be different and say Christian Yelich, but with a nod to both Chastain and Tyler Saladino, it's been pretty clutch for us when healthy this year. Okay.
I don't know. See, I guess I just picked Chastain because I felt like he didn't have any like expectation coming in, and he's exceeded that. I guess exceeded nothing. Whereas Kane and Yelich, I kind of felt like they're doing exactly what we thought they would do.
Right. It's great, Scott. Good
But
job.
they probably have done more for the team than Chastain. So I'll give you
Good point. Okay. Inning number 3. This actually is going to go out to both you guys at the same time. This is just going to be a group think effort. This past week, Mike
we're going in with a little less ammunition than you think.
It's true, actually. I do think that I already am well aware. This week, Mike Zagorski made his Brewers debut. He is one of four people in Brewers history to have a last name starting with a Z. Can you guys name the other 3?
What? No.
Anyone? I'll give you guys
2 more.
There's 3 more.
Well, no, I don't.
I'll give you guys a hint. All of these guys have
Zorn.
played. All these guys have played since the mid 1990s. Is the earliest one.
Did we have a Ziegelbauer?
Nope.
All right, I'm out.
Yep. We did not interview any of these guys, but
I'm also out.
Okay, all right. Greg Zahn, Pete Zocolillo, and Eddie Zosky. Eddie Zosky of your 1997 Milwaukee Brewers. All right, guys. That was a fail big time. All right. Inning number 4. Which player in the organization who we have not seen yet this season will be the next Brewers call-up? Scott Burkholm. This is, by the way, after the Corbin Burns call-up this past week.
All right. I almost think it's got to be like a pitcher. All right, I'll say Luis Ortiz.
Luis Ortiz. Craig?
Is this someone who's already in the organization, or can it be acquisition?
It has to be in the organization.
A call-up?
Yeah. No, the premise was which player in the organization.
Maybe we've been calling up.
Yeah.
Calling
in the
up
organization we have not seen. Yep.
That we have not seen.
Like last week, if you would have guessed Zagorski, you would have been totally right.
Yeah, I would not have guessed that. Zagorski. Also, by the way, as a side note, doesn't Zagorski have an infinite ERA, or did he get another appearance?
No, he had a couple appearances and he recorded it out, so it can't be infinite.
Oh, okay, yeah, because his first outing as a Brewer did not go well at all.
Neither did his second or third. He's had 3 appearances as a Brewer, I believe.
Oh, okay, yeah, not good. Even though he does have a very Milwaukee-sounding last name.
Yeah.
But let's see. I would imagine it'd be a bullpen arm, but I think we've exhausted almost all of our resources. I really don't think that there's someone else in our organization that hasn't already been called up that probably will be called up.
Ever? This entire season?
Well, September, I guess. see. Lopez has already been up this year, hasn't he?
He's up right now, Craig. He pitched yesterday.
Okay. Let's see. I will go with, let's see, Tim Dillard.
All right. Tim Dillard. Okay.
We've seen him many, many times. That doesn't count, right?
I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose.
He hasn't been called up this year.
Kind of defeats the purpose of the question, but okay, that's fine. All right, I'm going to go with Nick Ramirez just to be different. Yeah, let's say Nick Ramirez. Just
I
another.
should have tried to look at like our Sky Sox roster and just looked at.
Yeah, that would have been a smarter strategy, Scott. But your intern probably didn't get it to you on time, so whatever. Okay, inning number 5. How many? We're currently at 3 after Sunday's ball game against the Braves. How many sellouts will we see at Miller Park by the end of 2018?
How many what? Sorry.
Sellouts. How many times will Miller Park sell out? Be at capacity.
All year or for the rest of the year? Sorry.
So you're calling a total of 84?
No. All year, like.
No. The rest of the year. There's 3 so far, Scott.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So there's 40 games left at Miller Park this year, or something like that. So 43.
No, so I'll say like 5 more this year. Since there's already 3, I'll say a total of 8.
Oh, okay. I thought you said every game last year.
Kind of probably screwed that up.
Okay, Craig.
I'll go with 7 more sellouts, 10 total.
Okay, I'm going to go with 11 total. I think that between the Cubs games and then the Brewers being in contention in the second half, it'll fill up pretty quick here in the second half. Okay, number 6. Which National League team would you guys least like to face in the postseason this year? Scott Bartell.
I don't want to face the Cubs. I already hate them. I don't want to see them. Although it would be great to knock them out, and I would laugh a lot forever, I just don't even want to see them. Like, I don't want them a part of my life in any way.
Is that your answer?
Yeah.
I'll say the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're scary good.
All right. I don't think that they're going to go to the playoffs this year, but I'll say the Cardinals just because they've had our number in their last or 2 of the last 3 times they've gone to the postseason. So I'll just say the Cardinals. Let's see. Inning number 7. Should the Milwaukee Brewers have a team Hall of Fame at Miller Park? We currently have the Wall of Honor. Should we build a Hall of Fame at Miller Park? Scott.
I think if we ever had like a little bit more of a storied history, I think we should do that. Yeah, I would absolutely get rid of like the Wall of Fame and make like a Brewers kind of thing. But I would like it to be like, I guess it would be something that we would have to like kind of make a part of the stadium, you know? Like, I mean, the wall is just a wall. So it's like kind of somebody was like, we don't really have any room for this, so let's just start stapling plaques to the wall. So, yeah.
What if you did like an addition to the ceiling experience or something of that nature?
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. In fact, what's that little kids area or whatever it is? You could kind of just bulldoze that and, just.
Yeah, right, Scott. That's where you played skee ball. Are you kidding me?
No, not that part. The part where you like push along the racing sausages, that little like area in the corner. Yeah, we don't need 2 kids. Well, I guess that's like kind of the third, and there's Helfer Field. I mean, yeah. Let's make it a thing. But winning a World Series would make people actually want to go there.
That's great. All right, Craig.
Yeah, I'd say about 30 years from now, after we won at least like 6 more wild card championships and maybe hopefully 1 World Series, then we should do that. In the meantime, though, I have a suggestion. For kids, it'd be awesome if they actually had like every, top baseball card of the Milwaukee Brewers in history, like displayed somehow for kids to see maybe in one of the kids' areas. I think it'd be a great thing to get kids back into baseball cards or something like that. And it'd be really cool for older folks like us, or whatever, or anyone of any age, basically, to look back and, keep pictures, baseball cards of guys like, Chuck Krim and whatever, and just any random old ex-brewer, would be pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I would say yes, absolutely on the Hall of Fame. I've actually written the Brewers about it. I think that I think it would be really cool. I'm not just saying it like pure talent, like, okay, the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York is reserved to be. I think that it would be more of like what you mentioned, Craig, where it's a team history type of thing. And as a big history nerd, I think that there'd be a lot of value in that by having all those, different Topps cards of all the different guys, or team photos, or, just kind of get into the year-by-year stuff in the history of baseball in Milwaukee even. I think it'd be a really great way to bond older fans with younger fans, and to kind of see the tradition here in Milwaukee. And I think that all you guys were on this, or both you guys were on this trip, and I know our other co-host, Chad Collins, was, but if you guys remember, there was the Red Baseball thing at Synergy Field in Cincinnati was just awesome. And granted, they have a lot of more of a storied history, I guess, the Brewers, a longer history. But at the same time, I just thought that was a really, really interesting and cool concept where they talked about all their teams, good or bad, and a lot of their players, and had memorabilia, and, you could fill with stuff from County Stadium and on Miller Park. And yeah, I think it'd be really a great addition to the stadium, and certainly better than the Wall of Honor, which strikes me as very random, and then the Walk of Fame, which is just what people sort of walk on to get into the stadium, and then a couple of random statues. I think it would kind of tie things together a bit better for average fans, and it would show more of the true history of the team, even the guys that are not Hall of Famers.
Hey, don't they have a thing where, like, a sort of a green screen, make your own baseball card kind of thing, like sponsored by probably Topps or something like that? I thought they used to. I don't know that they do anymore, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen that.
I think it was in the kids area, but I haven't seen it, so maybe they swapped it out with something like more video game-ish or something. Who knows?
Maybe that's something we could do, I guess.
And I think that the ceiling experience is really cool, and it's a good concept. But the thing is that once you've been to it, you've kind of been to it. Whereas I think that a Brewers Hall of Fame could be always like growing and adding exhibits and things. And I think that could be a little bit of a kind of a neat addition to it, or a neat concept. So you could just kind of incorporate the ceiling part of it as part of the Hall of Fame. So. Okay, eighth inning. Scott Bartell, what is David Stearns' biggest mistake so far as a general manager?
He hasn't made many, but so far it's probably looking like the Chris Davis trade.
Yeah. Okay. Which
that was for Nottingham.
Exactly. To bring fans up to speed, that was we acquired Jacob Nottingham, who has appeared in just a handful of games for the Brewers. He's on the active roster again now, and then Bubba Derby, who has not come out of AAA yet. So for Chris Davis.
Wait, how's Bubba Derby doing at AAA? He could be the next one we see.
Yeah, he could be. You should have guessed him in the second inning.
I'll go with the obvious one and just say cutting Scooter Gennett.
Yeah, I'm with Craig on this one. I think that I like Chris Davis a lot. I think he would be valuable on some level, but Scooter Gennett has just turned into, to me, the premier second baseman in the National League. And what's worse is we didn't even get anything back for him. It was at least with Davis, you could argue, Nottingham could do something still, or maybe Bubba Derby could, or we get something for him. But yeah, losing Gennett for nothing hurts, especially now when we could use a second baseman.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I guess, like the MO on Stearns is always that he's looking for players that can play like different positions, and that gives a lot more lineup flexibility. And even Scooter's left-handed bat wasn't enough to keep him around here because he only played second. And unfortunately, when you play as well as he did, now Scooter's going to be he's going to be playing next week at the All-Star game, right?
Yep, he did make the All-Star team this year. One of 3 Reds from out to make the team. So yep.
Oh, wow, just as many as us. That's cool.
And
all right,
okay, guys.
Make a quick point that I've been on for 33 minutes. I know you guys were talking before I got on. So, Scott, I know you like to expound on your answers and whatnot, but I'll let you.
West Dallas loves it. Okay, guys, last question, 9th inning. Will Orlando Arcia be the Milwaukee Brewers opening day shortstop in 2019?
No, I don't think he will be. I think I don't know. I mean, he's got a lot of – he needs to develop yet, and he hasn't done that yet. And if that doesn't come around, you could be the greatest defensive shortstop of all time, and it doesn't matter if you can't hit over 200. So he's got some work to do. I'm not sure that he's going to be able to come around. And Saladino has been doing everything that we're asking of him. So at this moment, no.
Okay. Craig?
I'll say yes. I won't expound. I just kind of took my time, so it's fine.
That
Yes,
sounds
you will
great,
be.
though. Okay, I'm going to go with no, and I know it'd be selling low, but I could see Garcia having some value to another organization and possibly being on a trade at the deadline this year. I'm going to go out on a limb and say no because he's traded, and yeah, I think that the Brewers are down on him. He's been sent down to the minor leagues twice already this season, and yeah, the answer is no. And we got another guy in Dubon, which we hope is going to be healthy and ready to play shortstop next year. So,
wouldn't that be the
anyways,
shortstop that we sold low on that was supposedly going to be a franchise shortstop, the first being Gene Segura?
Yeah, except you could see with Segura, at least we got back, guys like Chase Anderson, and, we've seen the starting rotation survive this year, I think partially because Chase has stepped up a bit this past month especially, and I don't know where we would have been last year without him. So you could argue at least we got some value back for Segura. And
some pieces we got for Segura, we actually traded for Yelich. So
yeah, Ethan Diaz was traded for Yelich, and even Aaron Hill was traded for Aaron Wilkerson. So we still have a guy in the organization from that trade, 3 guys in the organization from that trade. So I guess it would all depend on what we would get back, who we would be receiving in return for Garcia. I wouldn't want to sell low on him per se, but depending on how organizations value him across baseball, it could happen. So, all right, guys, well, that's all we've got for Rapid 9. Any other thoughts before we sign off here?
Oh, wait, that was the 9th?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
well, let me do an extra inning then. For some reason, what percentage of overall Brewer fans do you think, as of this date, would are confident the Brewers will win the NL Central? Not make the playoffs or the wild card, but will actually win the NL Central. What percentage of Brewer fans are confident?
And
to the second part of that is what percentage of the Brewer review that are on the call right now think that the Brewers will win the NL Central, and then we'll reveal it. Go.
All right. I'm going to say fans 10%, hosts 0%.
I'll go a little higher. I'll go a little higher on the fans. Yeah, I'll go a little higher on the fans. I think a lot of fans are getting their hopes up. Seeing this team is a little bit different. So yeah, we'll say fans 20%, hosts. Yeah, probably 0%.
All right, I'll go with fans 13% and hosts 33%.
So Craig, you're calling.
Well, no, Scott, do you? Oh wait, I said on the process of elimination. Actually, let me change it to 0.
Yeah, I mean the Brewers have a great team this year. It's a lot of fun to watch them. I think that the Cubs also have, unfortunately, a very good team, and it's going to be tough to maintain what we've done in the first half all through the second half. So, hoping for the best, but never expecting it. It's not a given. We've had a lot of years that have proven that to be the case.
Although I will say, if the Brewers are the host of the wild card game, I'll be very jacked up again for that game as well, and we'll be attending it hopefully.
Nice.
Anyway, stay classy, everyone out there.
Yeah,
listeners.
Yeah, stay classy yourself, Craig, and go Brewers, and let's have a good last couple games here before the All-Star break.
Absolutely, yep. And then it's not called hot though. The trade deadline heat will be upon everyone when we talk again. So yeah, get ready, folks. This is the day that Craig traditionally is the second most mad all year, usually after Brewers draft day. So it is usually will be a very interesting show to listen to our beloved co-host Craig after Brewers trade deadline actions have passed.
Yeah, guys, my memory typically doesn't serve me very well, but I think the very last week before the All-Star game, we didn't play very well, and we gave some games back to the Cubs, and they kind of ate into our lead pretty good. And next thing you know, by the time the end of July was, we weren't even winning the division anymore. So it's really important that we finish this this last couple games really strong with Pittsburgh. Don't want to give anything away now.
No, including with exactly.
The Marlins,
exactly. Yep. Wow.
All right. Stay classy, guys. Have a good one.
All right, guys. Go Brewers.
All right, go Brewers.
Dude.